Are Ruby, if you want to record.
Yeah. Should be recording.
Cool. So let me take this opportunity to welcome everybody. My name is Chris Aviles. I am the president of Garden State Esports. I am also a STEM teacher at the Monmouth Beach School District, where I teach STEM through 6th to 8th graders, and I also coach the Dolphins esports team. Excited to have everybody back for another webinar. For those of you who have been following or you have not heard, you know that we released Codec, which is our career and technical education curriculum, about a week ago. And that curriculum is all about empowering kids on your team to take on the real jobs that they may find themselves doing if they work for a real esports company. And we know that one of those jobs, most important jobs probably, is graphic designer. And to give your students some authentic projects to work on, we've launched a Codec contest. And specifically, we are partnering up with Canva to do an esports logo design contest. You guys have until around Thanksgiving to take your best version of your school logo, give it an esports makeover, and submit it for the opportunity to win different prize packs. We have some cash prizes. And specifically for this logo design contest, not only has Canva been very gracious to help judge the contest, but they're actually going to donate a team set of shirts for the winning logo design contest. So that's super exciting as well. Great way to get your team some nice looking swag. And so to support all of you as you come and get involved in these Codec contests, I have asked Andrew from Canva to join us and kind of walk through some of the different things you could do with Canva, right? If you never use Canva, it's fantastic, because if you're like me and have zero artistic talent, it's a fantastic way to make some really good looking designs pretty quick and easy. I literally use Canva for everything from my day-to-day in school, but also, as you can see, all of Garden State Esports graphics are done in Canva. So when I wanted to do something around, graphic design and a contest, obviously that's who I wanted to reach out to first. They have free accounts for schools. Garden State Esports is a nonprofit. They have free accounts for nonprofits. So I've been legit using Canva for like 6 years. So I'm really excited to get to meet everybody in the Canva team, talk to them about what we're doing. And they have been fantastic in wanting to support us in this journey to bring graphic design, to our students, so that way they can see, right, what these jobs in the esports ecosystem look like, and again, of which graphic design is super important. So that's the curriculum. This is part of the contests. Let me introduce Andrew. Andrew, if you want to go ahead and tell folks a little bit about what you do at Canva, and I think we got a little game to start off.
Yeah, hi everyone. Just a start to this presentation, I thought might have been a little bit bigger an audience. So I've also made my presentation for a younger student audience. So for the students amongst us, you might find this a bit of fun, and possibly for the coaches, you might learn a thing or two as well. But obviously we can, as we talked about before, Chris, we can send this out as a recording and show it to more of your students, which is awesome. So yes, hello. Hello, I'm Andrew. I'm basically, I work at Canva. My actual role is a creative industries lead. So I work with our partners in the creative industries, and also I am a graphic designer with 20 plus years experience. So I'm well versed in all things design and creative, and understanding the way that, like Chris was mentioning, how important it is. No matter what you end up doing in your life, if you have a bit of a basis of graphic design and working with the graphic design tools such as Canva, that will really help you out. It doesn't matter whether you create your own small business, whether you go and work for a bigger company, no matter what industry, everyone needs design. And it's a really great thing to learn and to be a part of. So the first thing I wanted to do today, just for a bit of fun, was, I'm not sure if anyone can, maybe you can answer in the chat, but does anyone know where I'm actually from? Can anyone tell from my accent where I'm from? I'm obviously not American. Oh, hang on, we've got a chat. Let me just open the chat up. Ooh, close, Rebby. I'm Chris, close. New Jersey, no, Joe, I'm not from New Jersey. I'm definitely a long way away from New Jersey. But look, I'll answer just because I don't want to, you know, keep going on about this for too long. I'm actually from Australia, so you know, quite a far away from where you all are. There is a little hint on that graphic, if you can see. There's a little koala there hanging on to the question mark. But you know, just trying to help you out there. And can you find Australia on the map? You know, we are, you know, we're not very close to North America. Does anyone actually know where we are on this map? Once again, answers in the chat. I know it might be a bit hard. You can just give me a general area, maybe, if you know. All right, let me open the chat again. Bottom right, yep, Joseph. Chris, yep, we are bottom right. So we're right there. This is Australia. This is where I'm from. And I believe, or at least I was told, and my apologies if this is incorrect, but I believe that a lot of you guys are from New Jersey. Is that correct? Someone did say New Jersey is where I might be from. So I've kind of vaguely figured out where that is on the map of the US, just to show you the kind of distance away that we are. It's a very long flight. I've flown over to, I haven't been to New Jersey, unfortunately, but I have been to New York several times and have flown over there. It is a very long flight, you know, 15 plus or more hours on a plane, which is never particularly fun. But I do wish I was from New Jersey, Chris. I've seen many movies about, you know, New Jersey, and it sounds like a pretty amazing place. So I did want to just see a bit of a fun facts for, you know, for the students amongst us and possibly the adults who may not know a lot about Australia. But Australia is sort of famously home to some of the most deadly creatures on the planet. We seem to be full as a country of them. Not to say that they really harm many of us very often, which is great, but we have lots of spiders. One of the deadliest spiders in the world is actually called the funnel web spider, and its home is Sydney, where I live. You don't see them very often, thankfully. Snakes, we have lots of dangerous snakes, lots of very venomous snakes, some very, very, very big great white sharks down in particular down in the bottom of Australia, South Australia it's called, and crocodiles everywhere up north in our sort of warmer climate. So yeah, lots of dangerous animals. One of the most dangerous countries, but we also, for those of you who don't like dangerous animals, we also have some very cute animals as well. Some very famous animals that you would probably know about, our koalas and our kangaroos, both very unique to Australia, but also an animal that is a little more obscure that you may or may not have heard about, called a quokka. Apologies for my accent, it might be a bit hard to understand that, but quokka is, you may have seen pictures of quokkas on social media. They have this very sort of smiley little face, and they're found in the west of our country, in Western Australia, our state, on an island called Rottnest Island. If you look them up online, you'll see lots of very cute photos like this. They come up to people, they're very friendly, and they like to smile and say hello to everyone. So the other thing I'll just very quickly mention is just to give you a bit of context about where I'm from in Australia. So this is Australia. This is the map of Australia, including the little island down here called Tasmania. But I'm from a little place just about an hour and a half down the coast from Sydney called Austinmere. As I said, it's right on the coast. And this is a picture. Once again, I thought there'd be a bit more students on the call, but the ones that are on there and obviously the coaches might be of interest. Just to show you, this is where I went to school. So this is where this big arrow is here. I went to school in those buildings there, right across the road from the beach. So I spent most of my school time staring out the window at the surf, wishing I could go for a surf. So just wanted to give you some context. I know that's quite different to New Jersey, although I do understand there is actually some nice beaches and waves in New Jersey. So just to give you some context as to where I'm from. So as this next slide says, enough about Australia and about me. Let's roll into why we're here today, which is obviously to look at the logo. As Chris mentioned earlier, you are putting together a logo competition. So I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about logo creation, how to go about that in Canva. And then I'm going to show you the logo that I designed for this presentation and how I created it, which might just give you some ideas and some ways to work on your own logos. So let's create a logo. So a question I had, which I'll throw out again, and you can put your answers in the chat, is what tool is the most important for logo design? What do you think is the most important tool for designing a logo? Rebby, Photoshop, definitely not. Anyone else? Anyone else got some thoughts? I'll give you a hint. It's a bit of a trick question. Illustrator, Inkscape, no, none of those things. Although they are important, of course. Canva, of course, that's very important. Tyler, well done. Your imagination, or as I've put it, your brain. So, you know, obviously your imagination comes from your brain. Everything comes from your brain, right? So your brain is obviously the most important thing when it comes to, you know, creating a logo. You can have the greatest tools in the world. You can be really proficient in all of your tools, including Canva, of course. But unless you have an idea, unless you have a vision for what your logo to be, then you're not going to be able to create a logo, right? So the first thing to do whenever you create any type of design, you know, a logo, a poster, a t-shirt, you know, a book, whatever it is, you obviously have to think about it. You know, what is it I want to create? What, you know, who is the audience? Who's going to be looking at this logo? What does this logo need to tell this audience? You know, what are the components of the logo, the different, you know, things that need to go into this logo? You need to think about all of these things before you start, because you need to, you know where you want to start from. So the most important thing is to spend a bit of time. That could be an hour, could be a day, could in some cases be weeks. But think about that logo, do some research and think about it in the same way as you would in any kind of schooling, in your gaming. You know, I'm sure you don't just jump into a game and start to play it. You have a look at it first. You think about, you know, what that game is. You know, is it multiplayer? Is it single? You know, what it is, and you have a think about it, and then you turn it on and away you go. So that's the first thing to keep in mind when you design, or when you're doing sort of any kind of graphic design or artwork or anything like that. And one top tip, and this is once again before you really start to kind of jump on the computer and get into your design work, is to start with a pencil. So most great designs, or certainly most great logos, have started as a pencil sketch. So I've got a couple of you know, examples here. The one obviously on the left is, you know, super famous, the Nike logo. As you can see there, these are some of the original artwork and sketches that were created for Nike. And then it's now the super famous swoosh that I'm sure most of us have worn on our shoes or our t-shirts or whatever, you know, over the years. And then the one on the right there is the World Wildlife Fund logo. As you can see, the person who designed this logo, who I don't know who that was, but they've done some just really basic sort of pencil or pen sketches, and they've done one of a little bear sort of sitting there, and they've thought, oh, you know, they've circled it as this one looks probably the best idea, and then they've developed it to create the actual icon or logo. So start with a pencil, see where that takes you. Pencils are easy. You can obviously use an eraser and get rid of things. You can just draw lots of them in a sketch pad. They're a bit quicker and a bit easier. It's a little bit of an easier way to get thoughts out of your mind than going directly straight on to the computer. So what I did when I thought about doing this presentation, I thought, well, I'm going to design a logo for this. I should start with a pencil. So my sketch for this logo was this one. Very quick, as you can see. I'm, you know, not particularly detailed, not particularly a beautiful sketch by any means, but a sketch nonetheless, where I've just had a few thoughts. I've thought about, you know, Canva is a you know, as I am, is an Australian company. It was started in Australia, in Sydney, and so I wanted to come up with something fun that reflected the Australian side of the company. So I've thought about a koala. Once again, as I mentioned earlier, they're one of our most iconic animals. Very cute, very fun. So I've then thought, okay, drawn a very, you wouldn't know that was a koala if I hadn't told you, I would imagine, but you can get the idea. And then I thought about gaming, obviously, as I said before, you know, I'm not a massive, don't know a lot about gaming or esports, but I know like everyone, I've played the sort of Xboxes and PlayStations and all that. And I thought about the controllers, and I thought they're quite an iconic thing when it comes to gaming. So I've then placed the controller and thought, oh, you know, it looks a bit like the body of and arms of a koala. And then I thought, well, what about a second controller that will look like maybe the sort of legs and the lower body? So I've just sketched that really quickly, as you can see, very basically. And then I thought just about a bit of I guess, framing for the logo, and obviously some copy there, some text, which says, in my very poor handwriting, my apologies, says, Canva koalas. I put a date and just a few question marks. Do I need a Canva logo? Esports, do I need that reflected somewhere? Just some thoughts around, what might go into the logo. Once again, this is just a preliminary sketch, doesn't need to be too detailed. So then I've come onto the computer and I've then gone into Canva, and then I've created my logo, the Canva Koalas team logo. So this is it here. As you can see, it looks pretty similar in many respects to the sketch that I created, but there's obvious differences as well because it's now a computer-based file. I've also used the Canva, elements and content in order to actually create the logo. So you can see there are a lot of differences to my sketch, but the sort of overall feel of it is pretty similar. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to first off show you the different elements that have gone into this logo so that you can just get a bit of an idea of how the logo is sort of created, which elements are sort of within there. So you can see I've got the koala head, I have the game controllers, I have a little rectangular block there, which I'll explain in a little bit. I've got the text, the Canva koalas, the Canva logo, the esports, and then the two circles. So you can see up here that I've got the logo just so you can see it. And what I'm going to do is basically show you how to create this. So I'm just going to go out of presentation mode now. How do I get out of presentation mode? Oh, there we go. Sorry, I'll just go back there. So I'm going out of presentation mode. I'm now in the Canva user interface that you've, I'm sure, used before. And I've also just realized that I've actually used an older version of the logo on this one. So what I'm going to do is just get rid of this inner circle. You can see it's up here, but I'll just leave it up here. I won't bore you with the details of why I did that, but I'll just leave it there. So what I'm going to show you is basically what I did to create this logo. So I had my sketch, I had my idea, and I thought, okay, how am I going to go about creating this? So what I've done is, if you haven't used Canva before, as I said, this is the sort of interface where you can, create all of these different shapes and pages and things that you can do with Canva. Yours will look a little bit different because it's Canva Education. You may not have as many sort of things down the side in this navigation down here on the left. But I'm obviously a Canva member, so I have certain things here that you won't. But with the elements, basically all you do is click into here and you have you can search for all of the different elements in Canva. So my first thing I did was to think, okay, if my koala is the one that I want to, it's going to be my, I guess, mascot or symbol for this logo, I want to search for koalas, right? So I type in koala, and I click on search, and you can see that Canva has, I wouldn't want to count them because there'd be so many, but Canva has just loads and loads and loads of different koala content. You can see here we have a variety of different content as well. We have photography, obviously. We have graphics, such as these little illustrations of koalas. We have videos, such as this one here, where you can see the koala. That one, he doesn't move. Koalas don't move much. They do a lot of sleeping, just so you know. They're a very sleepy creature. So what I've done is I've just kind of scrolled through here and looked at which would be the best element to use. And you can see here that I found this one right here, this little koala head. And all I do to put that on my page is I just click, and you can see now that my koala head has come on my page. It's obviously exactly the same as this one. Once again, I'm just showing you how I brought together all of these elements. So our koala head, is there now. I thought that was cute. I thought from a logo perspective, it works well, because one of the things to keep in mind when you're working on logos is to keep them simple. Think about all of the logos that you probably know. Like I mentioned, the Nike logo, I'm sure there's lots of esports logos as well. They're all probably quite simple. They're very graphic, very simple, icons and images. Because if you get too complicated with a logo, it can be hard to reproduce at different sizes and use throughout what you might need to use it for, like printing or putting it on your websites, things like that. So suggestion is to kind of use it, like think really simply when you think about designing a logo. So basically, I've done this for all of the different elements. So I've gone in to, as you can see here, I've searched for gaming or game controllers, and I've basically also selected these different game controllers. That one's actually slightly different to the one I did select, but you can kind of see how I've gone about that. Yeah, no problem, Chris. So I've just wanted to show you how you use the sort of elements tab there and how you search for elements. You can search for anything you like, and there's bound to be something that comes up on Canva, because we have literally millions and millions and millions of different elements and photos that you can use for your designs. So what I'm going to do is show you how I put this together. So with this circle, that was also an element that I searched for. So what I basically did was go here back to my elements tab, and I went up and I searched for circle and then outline. You can see it's in my recents here because I've searched for it. I've gone circle to outline, and you can see once again that there's loads of different options. Some of them just different colors. They're different line weights, so how thick the line is. You can see this one here is quite thick. This is quite thin. What I've done is I've just gone for the sort of medium level, and then I've used these little controllers here to increase the size. So you can see that this is the one I've used, and I've increased it to a certain size. So I'll just get rid of that, but that's just to show you how to go about getting that circle. So in order to actually create the logo, I've done it really simply, as I mentioned. I've just grabbed all these elements and I'll start to create it. So you can drag it around the page like you can on most applications. I've stuck the head there. I've then gotten the controller. And just so you're aware, when I was doing this, the first time I did it, I was playing around a lot. I was thinking, you know what if I just had so that there was a gap between the neck, would that look okay? And I played with that for a little while. And then what I did, as I mentioned, was I got the second controller, and you can see that I've actually resized it a little bit. So it's a little bit smaller than that first one. And I've kind of placed it here. I've sort of aligned it. As you can see, Canva does this really great thing where you can see those purple lines that help you line up your different, content on your page. So you can see I've kind of done that, and I've gone, you know what? I've thought to myself, it's getting a little bit complicated there. That bottom controller, the sort of control panels or whatever they're called, the buttons and stuff, it's looking a little bit busy. So I thought to myself, you know what? I don't think I need that, because I think that this top controller is sort of showing the idea, right? It's showing that this is a gaming, esports logo. There's a gaming element to it. So I've decided that what I'm going to do is get rid of those elements. So I want to keep that shape, but I also want to get rid of all the circles and the plus and the controller items. So what I've done is, and there are, I will say there are certain limitations in Canva in terms of editing these kind of objects, but there's always a really fun workaround. So what I've done here is I've simply just gone and created a rectangle. So you can see this is a rectangle shape. To do this, and here's another top tip, all you do is press R on your keyboard. You see, I pressed R, and it creates a rectangle that you can size to any size you want. You can do anything you want with this rectangle. So what I've done is I've created one of those. And another really cool thing to know about Canva, by the way, is you can command, or I think on PCs it's Alt-Z, which is a really handy thing to do because it can get rid of any mistakes you might make. But I've created this block, just a black block in the same color as the logo, and I've just placed it here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to zoom in a bit. You can just press Command plus or Alt plus, I think it is, on a PC. I use a Mac, just so you're aware, to zoom in there so you can get a bit of a better view. And I've just using these little side controllers there, I'm just controlling the different size so that I've covered up my controller, the bottom controller, things. So you can see now, if I zoom out a bit, that it's looking a little bit better. It's looking a little less busy, a little more sort of logo-like. But it's also looking a bit strange because the koala is looking sort of like he's made of these three different shapes. And obviously, the way that this rectangle interacts with that is not looking that great. So what I then decided was, well, let's sort of tighten this up a bit. Let's pull it together. So I've just pulled this up, and you can use your arrow keys to sort of fine tune your measurements. So I've pulled it up like that, and I've thought, you know what, that's looking better. It's looking like a little bit of a simpler object. It looks a bit more like an actual, koala body, and it's just a nicer logo object. So let me just put that one to the back. So what I've then done is I've had to play around with it once again. Let me just position. So what you can do as well, something that's really good when you're using logos, is you can position your different objects at different layers. So I can then say to this one, oh, this circle come to the front, or go to the back. What I wanted to do is go to the back so that I can select the different objects within the koala first. So what I've done is I've thought, you know what, I'm not really loving this gap between the head and the body. It just feels a little bit, I don't know, sort of not like one object to me. So I've then just quite simply grabbed the koala head, dragged it down a little bit to cover up that white space. And I like that. So when I first created this, as you can see in the full logo up the top corner there, I thought, you know what, this is probably, how I'd like my koala. And I've actually just pulled him down even a little bit further just to kind of break that neck up a bit. Obviously, I'm very aware of what koalas look like, given that I have grown up in a country with koalas. So I've just tried to base it on, once again, what I felt the koala looked best, but also like that shape of the, game controller to once again reflect that it's an esports logo. So that's it. That's my koala. I'm happy with my koala. And now I want to select him and just play with his positioning in that circle a little bit. So what I'm done here is I basically just select all of these objects together, which once again, you probably know how to do that, but you can just hold the Shift key and click on each object. I can then group up here, group the object, or you can press Command or Alt G to group all of your items. So you can see now that if I deselect my koala, I can just reselect him and it'll select all of the objects together, which is really handy. So what I'm then going to do is I'm going to center him inside the circle. So you can see that those lines, those purple lines come up when he's centered exactly both horizontally and vertically. So he's all good now. He's centered. And I'll just zoom out a little bit there. I'll just also get rid of this koala head. I'm going, okay, I'm happy with that. He's looking good. He's centered. Now what next? So what I wanted to do was obviously add the name of our team, the Canva Koalas. So I've typed it out and I've chosen a nice font. You have options to have like loads of different typefaces or fonts here in Canva. There's a big selection of them, hundreds and hundreds of, I think thousands of different fonts that you can select. Some of them are fun, some of them are quite simple. It really depends on what you want to do for your team and how you want your team to come across. I've selected this one just out of interest called Euro Style Extended because it's a nice font. It looks quite nice. But what I've decided is because I've put my koala in a circle, what I want to do is, there's not really a good place for me to place that text. So what I decided was I want to put that text on a curve. So what you then do is you go up to the little effects tab here within Canva, you click on effects and you can see down here it says shape, and I've currently got that on none, but I put that on curve. And you can see also that there's options here to change the curve. See how as I move this little slider here, you can see the curve is changing, and you can change it from curving sort of inwards to curving outwards as well, like that. So what I've done is I've liked that. I've thought, okay, this is looking cool, but obviously it's not going to be able to fit up here above the koala, because then it's going to interact with the actual koala himself. So how do I move it to the side? So you can see, I'll just move it over. I know I'm recording here. So you can see the little sort of arrows sort of curve to rotate there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees or minus 90 degrees. You can see there's a little dialogue there that tells you exactly how far you're rotating. And then I'm going to just drag it over and line it up and just put it there. You can line things up by eye. You don't have to utilize the the line sort of tool. And I've also, what I've done is you can go back to your effects and you can go back to your curve slider here, and you can see, that how it will match that circle. So I've just sort of, like, I tend to, when I do designs, I tend to just use my eye and see if something looks good. From my perspective, I think this could probably just be moved a little bit. You can see I put to minus 94 there, just so it kind of sits a bit better because of where the koala is sitting. So you can just play around with that. With Canva, it's super easy to do that. You just play around with these different tools. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing. I'll do it a bit more quickly with the koala, so I can kind of keep going through here. And I've just turned my koala back to 90. I'll put him over into my circle. And then you can see it doesn't really sit properly here. It's touching his ear and a little bit, not really quite curving with the circle. So then I've just used my curve slider again to kind of match that curve a little bit more. And then I've also gone back and I've just changed the angle on that a little bit more, pulling that out from the side a little bit. And there you go. I'm happy enough with that. If I was doing this not in a presentation to everyone, I would probably spend a little bit more time on that. But you can obviously play with the detail, play with how it sits and where it's going to sit within your design. So then I wanted to add a logo. Obviously, it's nice, given this is a Canva presentation, to have a Canva and where the Canva koalas. So I've added. You probably won't do this because you're creating a logo, but I wanted to add the Canva logo in, so I've just placed it there quite simply up the top of the koala. And then I wanted to reflect that this is an esports team, so I've added esports text and stuck it in the middle there below, below the koala. And I've also done the same thing with the text as well. I've just created a little bit of a curve, just to make it sort of, once again, sit nicely rounded with that, with the circle. And there you go. There's pretty much the logo. So you can see, that's my original logo, and this is one I've just created for you. Pretty much the same thing. Let me just try to get this in the center a bit more for you all. But yeah, pretty much the same thing. And that's how I created the logo. So you can see I've used different elements within Canva. Obviously text, I've used circles, I've used these graphic elements to create my logo, which I'm quite happy with. I think it's a fun, cute esports logo for the Canva koalas. Yeah, so that's pretty much it in terms of what I was going to mention with the logo design. I know there's a lot more that I could say about it. There's a lot of things that you'll need to probably look at, but the great thing about Canva is that you can actually learn it so easily. You can play around and just learn it really easily and without too much hassle. So what I'm going to do is, the next thing I'm going to do, let me just put this screen there, is now it's time to wear your logo. So what I want to do now is show you how to create, put your logo onto a hoodie, right? So you can then print that hoodie and you can wear it during your esports competitions. You can wear it around your school to show that you're part of your esports team. So what I will do then is I'll show you the whole process. So I'll go back to my Canva home screen, and I would say, go up to here, create a design up the top right there. And this is me working this morning, but I would go and type hoodie. And you can see here, there's a bunch of different hoodies. These are hoodies for teachers, which is great. But I'm just going to click on hoodies, and it will open up a new document within Canva, which is basically a blank hoodie template. So as you can see, it's just one page at the moment. It's just blank, but it's in the size that can be generally printed for a hoodie. So I'm going to go back to my esports deck over here in Canva. I'm going to go to my logo. I'll do the one that I created today. And I'm going to select all of that logo. I'm going to copy and then go back to my hoodie design. And I'm going to paste onto the logo, onto the page, sorry. So I'm going to just resize a little bit just for, for the sake of it, and put it up in the corner there, and I'll show you why I'm doing that in a sec. But then you'll see up the top here, it says print hoodies. So if I click on that, it will show you a preview of how your hoodie will look. So obviously it will depend on the color of your hoodie. But if I go back here and I say, okay, I want for example, a heather gray hoodie. And then I show you the example, you can see that's working better, right? Because currently my logo is basically black and red. But you can see that quite easily with, I don't know how many clicks I did there, but very few, you've essentially got a hoodie that you can print and send to print to be created. I'm going to show you a little bit more, but that's a really quick and easy way you can do it. What I'm going to do though is I'm going to go back to black. I know lots of kids and lots of people, adults, love their black hoodies. So what I'm going to do is just show you how I can change those colors quite easily. So if I select my koala, what I'll do actually, I'll put a black background on. Actually, I won't put a black background. I'll just put a color background for now, just so I can show you how this changes, and I'll zoom in a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select our koala. I'm going to ungroup him, and then I'm going to select his head. I'm going to go over here to our color palette, our color selector, where you can see you can choose lots of different colors. You can basically choose any color that you would like. But what I'm going to do, because it's a black hoodie, I'm going to just choose white for my koala. And what you can see down here on the bottom left is a thing here, a dialogue that says change all. This is a really handy thing within Canva. If I click change all, you'll see that it changed all of the objects from black to white in one click. Super easy. And if you have a lot of objects, a lot of things on a page, super quick and easy way to do it. So I'm then going to go to my text. I can select all of those. So I've just selected all of the text on the page. I'm going to go back to my color selector, and I'm going to click white. So now you can see that my koala, my text, my circle are all in white, which when I now show you the preview, I think is a lot better on a black hoodie. I personally, if I was going to get this printed, I would probably just do a one color white on a black hoodie, but you can do whatever colors you like, and it can get printed. The other thing to keep in mind is obviously sometimes we don't just like, before I go on to that, you can obviously move your logo around. You can resize him to whatever size you want. So if you wanted him, for example, really quite big right in the center of your hoodie on the front, you can do that, and you can see that that's how it would come out. Would look quite cool. But what you can also do, and I'll just duplicate this page, is you can put a back print. So obviously a lot of hoodies, people love to have a print on their back to once again show their team or whatever they might want to be showing. So I'll just duplicate this page, a little dialogue up here, quickly duplicates everything on that page, which is really handy, really quick and easy way to do things. You can see here in our hoodie section, I will click on both sides. So it then brings up this little thing here, which allows me to select which side I want to print on the back. So I'm just going to select page 2, and that would be the same print on both sides. So you can see now that I can print that, sort of bigger logo on the back. And what I will do is just go back to my first page. I'll select all of the logo, and then I will make him a bit smaller, put him on the sort of the left chest, which is obviously quite a traditional spot when you're printing a hoodie or a t-shirt or something like that. And I will then show you the preview. So there he is. You've got your logo up here, your Canva koalas, and you've also got your big Canva koalas on the back. So that's a pretty fun and cool hoodie. If you ask me, I would love that hoodie. In fact, if I wanted, I could literally keep going and print that hoodie and get that one sent to me, which would be quite fun. But yeah, that's how you print hoodies. I will just quickly sort of mention that you can, through Canva, but also obviously you want to chat to your school about this, but you can set up prints for t-shirts, all sorts of different items. I'll just head back to the other deck here just quickly. Where was I up to? Yeah, here. So that's pretty much all I had sort of set to mention today. Hopefully that sort of has helped you understand a little bit more about how to use Canva in particular for your logo that you're going to be designing. Obviously, as Chris mentioned earlier, you can design loads of different things in Canva. You can do your reports, you can do presentations for school, you can do all sorts of things within Canva. So I guess I'll open it up. Obviously, we don't have a big crowd today, but are there any questions that anyone has in regards to anything I've chatted about today?
I do. I have a few questions for you.
Yeah, great.
One question, so that we talk a lot, both in my class and I'm sure other teachers with regards to esports and answering questions. Can we talk about color theory for a little bit?
Yeah.
Looking at your logo, you went with black and red, but if you had to pair up a color with that red that wasn't black or white, what color might you go with? And I ask this because a lot of times, in my experience, kids want to add way too many colors. And so I try to get them to look at the color wheel, and I kind of tell them, pick colors that are opposite on each other from a color wheel. Or if you want three colors, draw kind of like a triangle on the color wheel. Black and white goes with everything. Or, think of your favorite sports teams and the colors that they use. As a professional, like, what is your recommendation when it comes to matching colors, right? Is what I'm saying right? Or is there new or better advice you can give when it comes to helping kids decide what colors go together and what would look best?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really great question. And essentially what you said, Chris, is pretty much spot on. I think that you can, I can't say that I generally look at a color wheel very often. I think when you design something, a lot of the time it does come from your own kind of gut feel for what is right. And as I mentioned earlier, when you start to create your logo, you've got to keep in mind the end user and who that is. So as I said before, I'm quite honest about not knowing a massive amount about esports, but what I have seen about it is quite bold, quite vibrant. There is a lot of it's a really fun, vibrant atmosphere. And so I would be thinking about, vibrant colors sort of, and as you said, not too many colors as well. Most logos generally will only have a few different colors. And if they have more, it's very sort of specific. Like you'll look at, like, say, for example, the Google logo, it famously has sort of 5 different colors because obviously, or 6 or whatever it is, because obviously Google, has a color for each word. But most logos, generally you want to use the least amount of colors you can so that it can work as a logo across multiple different applications. So for example, if your logo was, I don't know, green and red, for example, right? And you wanted to place that logo on a photo of, I don't know, your soccer field at your school. You might lose some of that logo, right? Because the green might not sit on the soccer field. So what I tend to do when I create logos is I start with black and white, because if a logo looks good in black, it will then look good. It will work on everything. And you can then add color dependent on what the application is. So you can maybe add more color if you want to, do something cool, like once again on a t-shirt or something like that. You might add more colors to your logo, but then if you are using it for other applications, you might take some of those colors out. So I'm not sure if that's necessarily sort of answered the question, but just to kind of reiterate what you said, Chris, is like the least amount of colors within a logo in particular, the better, just to make sure that it's simple and works across multiple applications.
It's really helpful. And then I guess a similar question I get all the time is around fonts and font choices. And a lot of times maybe kids want to pick like a script that winds up being hard to read. Or I remember hearing that like the ideal font size is always like a 20 or something like that, a 20-point sized font. Any just kind of tips around what to look for, what makes a good font, a readable font? We don't want Comic Sans, but we also don't want to always have, Arial or Times New Roman. So how can kids find a font that's going to work? And what sizes, right, when we're making our fonts, are we kind of looking for?
Yeah, another great question. I mean, a lot of this still, as I said earlier about color, does come down to your personal preference. But legibility and the ability to be able to read your text at different sizes is really important when it comes to logos in particular. Once again, if you're designing something else, you might have smaller typeface, or you have a really super large typeface. But with a logo, you need to make sure that that logo can be seen and read quite easily, even if it's printed like quite small on something. Say you have a newsletter or that you send out, you print out, or on your website, something like that. You'll generally see logos are quite small. So designers work really hard to make sure that the typeface that they use is really legible and really able to be read at multiple sizes. In terms of choosing a typeface, once again, that really comes down to a lot of sort of personal preference. But I do agree, steer clear of Comic Sans. It's not the best font when it comes to, it may look a bit fun, but it's not the best font, certainly when it comes to logos. My personal preference is for quite sort of classic logos that kind of, once again, can work across multiple different areas as well. With esports, there's obviously it's about gaming, it's about online. So you might want to think about, fonts that work well in digital environments. How will it look if it's a logo on a YouTube video and you've got your logo in the corner? How does that typeface work from a digital perspective? So that's something to definitely keep in mind as well, and especially when it comes to the logo size, to the type size. Once again, with logos, sometimes that logo is just going to be quite small. Other times it can be quite big. So you have to kind of choose wisely so that your typeface is quite legible. But when it comes to actually logo size, just in general, it's a really hard one to answer because once again, it really depends on what you're designing. I mean, your logo size choice will be very different. Say if you're designing a poster you might be wanting to put up at your school. Obviously a poster might be quite large. You can therefore have larger type. If you're printing out a little flyer that you want to hand out, you might have to have your typefaces a little bit smaller. The general rule is, I think, to not go below around sort of the 10 point when you're printing something out or something like that, because then it will just get a little bit small. So once again, it just comes down to using your eye. If you can read it at 100% size, if you can read it well, then generally other people will be able to. So something just to keep that in mind.
That's really helpful. And then I think the last one, I'm thinking the most commonly asked questions that I get. We know that we can size and resize in Canva. And we know that we can download as a JPEG or PNG or print PDF or a regular PDF. When it comes to sizing and downloading, any tips for what is the best size? I would imagine obviously for, like you said, YouTube videos and Twitter backgrounds and stuff like that, Canva has those sizes already in the platform, so I can just design there, download it, and it'll fit perfectly. But more so maybe for a logo that might get downloaded and wind up in a bunch of different places. I know the default size for logos in Canva is like 400 pixels by 400 pixels. Will that get the job done for anything I might want to use a logo for? Do I want to make it, way bigger with the idea that it might get squished down and we wanted to keep that fidelity? And then again, I've always been told, PNGs for kind of like social media type of stuff, but JPEGs for maybe a website because they load faster because they're smaller files. Just any kind of like tips about that kind of stuff. Once we have our logo, we want to make sure wherever we put it, it looks good. So from that perspective, what is your professional opinion?
Yeah, well, to reflect your thoughts again, what I would basically do, and utilizing Canva, I would have my logo as big as I could, or not as, I mean, it doesn't have to be, billboard size or anything, but I would have designed my logo and then size it as big as you can, way bigger than the 400 by 400. I think that is generally 400 by 400 pixels will be totally fine for any sort of digital application. Once again, if you're placing it on a social media post or YouTube video or something like that, that'll be big enough. But if you wanted to, like I said before, if you wanted to say, print a poster with your logo quite large to put around in your classroom or wherever you might want it, you want that logo to be bigger. So my suggestion whenever it comes to designing your logo is to make it quite large. And the way that Canva works and the way that the files are, that you can expand them and to quite a large size. So I would create it quite large and then have it downloaded quite large, so that if you are having to send your file to someone to utilize that file, then they have a larger file that they can then shrink up, like you said, and they won't lose any quality. Because where you find problems is when you try to increase the size of your logo. So if you have a logo that is a JPEG or a PNG and it's quite small, if you try to increase that size, you'll lose quality and it'll start to get what I'm sure you've all seen, pixelated images where they get a little bit pixely, a little bit square, a little bit sort of blurry. That's what happens if you try to expand the size. So the bigger that you can create it, the better, because that way that whoever uses it, either yourself or someone else in your team or your school, they won't have to resize it and expand it. That's where you start to have problems.
And then building on what you said, if I was going to send my file to somebody who is going to print it out on a flyer, was going to print it on a poster, what is the best file type to send to them?
In that situation, I would be sending a PNG and with a transparent background. So I can quickly show you that if you like.
Sure.
Not sure how much time we have, but I can quickly show you that. So if I've got my logo here, let me just get rid of this logo and the Canva logo for a sec. I've got my logo here. I can go up to my share. Let me just move the chat thing here and then go to download. The one thing about Canva, which is really cool, it does suggest what is the right thing to do. But given I just want to download this page and not the whole logo, the whole document, I'll go up to here, PNG, high quality. And you can see here, there's a selection for transparent background. And all I do is select transparent background. I'll then select the page that I'm on, which is page 19. Go find that. There's my logo here. And then I'd say done. And then I would say download. Now, what will happen is that will download a PNG with a transparent background that you would then be able to place on over anything. So you could place that logo over a photo, or place it onto a flyer, or place it somewhere else, and they'd be able to use it. The only thing that you may have to do is create several options. So you might have to create, so for example, what we call a mono version, which would be, say, a white version of your logo, so that if they needed a white version to place on, say, a black background, then they can quite easily do that. So that would be the sort of the best way to download your logo.
And then similar to that, if I was going to use the file for social media, if I was going to use it for a YouTube background, would that be when I wanted to use the JPEG, or PNG is good as well?
PNG, you can't have transparent backgrounds on a JPEG. So your logo, if I was to download this page that I'm on here as a logo, as a JPEG, all of the white that you see would also be on the JPEG, which wouldn't be ideal when it comes to a logo. So what you want to do is you want to download it as a PNG is ideal, because it will get rid of all the transparent background. So all of this white, both on the page here and also inside my design, will be gone, which is ideal when it comes to logos. Because once again, most of the time logos get placed on top of something. Might be on top of an image, on top of a color. whatever that might be. So if you can have your logo without all of the unless you decide you really want to have that white or a different color in that circle, which is totally fine as well. You want to give the designer or the person you're sending that logo to options. So the best thing to do would definitely be as a PNG when it comes to anything to do with logos.
Awesome. Well, Andrew, I can't thank you enough. I know I learned a thing or two using R to turn an object into a rectangle. It just saved me a ton of time. I've been trying to figure out how to do that forever. So that's super useful. Everything you said, super excited for all of the club advisors and kids with Garden State Esports to get started to make their logos and hopefully win themselves a set of t-shirts or hoodies so they can look good. We actually rented out one of the local universities here for our fall finals. So we're going to be getting face-to-face, everybody coming together December 18th. And I believe we should have the shirts or hoodies ready to give out to the winner on that date, which is the way we can, constructed the contest. So super excited to be able to hand those out live right to the kids, be able to see their faces when they see their work come alive on something that their whole team can wear. Andrew, thank you so much. Super fantastic. And yeah, I think it's been wonderful.
Well, as it says there, thank you very much. No, it's been an absolute pleasure, and good luck to all of the students in your logo design. And I hope you enjoy designing your logo and have fun with Canva. So yeah, thanks very much.
Wonderful.